Okay, it's just connecting to YouTube now.
But what about Facebook Live? Is it on Facebook Live?
Not on Facebook Live, no. It was. We've tried it 3 times on Facebook Live and it just hasn't worked. So, okay, so we are now live. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so we're now streaming live on YouTube. So welcome, wonderful women, to this evening and this space to speak together on the topic of community resilience in changing times. And we picked together the theme of this week to speak on embracing chaos, which is quite an exciting topic. And it feels like it's, as we talk about it, it's kind of embracing chaos, but also engaging with creativity in that process. That seemed like that was what was really central in the conversation that we had around it, how embracing chaos also links to creativity. So welcome. So I'll just quickly introduce everyone who's on the call. My name's Katherine Jordan, and joining me this week, I have, first of all, Agata KRAJEWSKA. Is that right?
KRAJEWSKA.
Yeah, okay. Agata is founder of the Theatre of Awakening and Rough Diamond School, where she offers a space for self-inquiry through embodied creativity. So welcome.
Thank you.
And DONNA. Hello, Bella.
Yeah.
Bella is an author, poet, storyteller, yoga and meditation teacher. Welcome. And lastly, we have Jackie JUNO, the fabulous Jackie JUNO. She comes with a reputation, this lady. So Jackie JUNO works with shamanic techniques, sound healing, ceremony, creativity to empower and inspire. It's a nice little bio like that. So welcome, Jackie.
Good to be.
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to open up the conversation by reading something that I sent to you, which is a passage that was written by a Sufi teacher called Llewellyn Vaughan Lee, who has recently published a free PDF on, it's titled Handbook for Survivalists, and he's made it available for free on his website. And this is an excerpt from that PDF, and the chapter is called Chaos. And I have just taken some snippets from that chapter, so it's not the full chapter, it's just some snippets from it that felt quite poignant. So I'll just read this and then we'll begin. How are we going to live with the chaos of the coming years as the structures that support our present global consumer society begin to fall apart? We witnessed in the present pandemic how easily its supply lines could be broken, how quickly many millions lost their jobs and livelihoods, how a health crisis and economic recession escalated into food lines and homelessness. Meanwhile, fires and floods show our vulnerability to the coming climate crisis. And always it is the poor and destitute who suffer first, whether it's the farmers in Somalia or the service workers in America. And what of the insecurity rippling through our collective psyche, which was present even before the pandemic, that this dream of prosperity is over? How will we now begin to react when there is no short-term fix, no quick vaccination to return everything to normal? Chaos itself is a life force, a time of creative regeneration. It is a descent into the darkness of unknowing, and also the prima materia for our chemical change. Only from this primal formlessness is real change possible. A change that is not conditioned by past structures or ideologies. Chaos images the beauty of what is unpredictable. It is what is so important. It's why it's so important not to define the future at this time. We have to allow chaos to transform our world, to bring its own quality of wonder into our lives. As Nietzsche's famous saying says, you must have chaos within you to birth a dancing star. For those who can bear to look, chaos has its own light, its own dance. It is like the in-breath that takes life from form to formlessness, that frees us from patterns that bind. Chaos can strip us bare and so allow us space for new life, new patterns to form. It is both dynamic and ecstatic, even if it can be painful. If we are to be free of the limitations of our rational consciousness and its drives to control nature, then we need to allow chaos. We need to allow this power of unbinding. And in the coming years, we will watch as chaos comes into the outer stage of our lives, as our world dies and waits to be reborn. Those of us who have entered the borderlands in our own journey can welcome what is formless and unknown, can work with this light that unbinds. We have also learned to respect this power, feel it in our own body and psyche. We can recognize it in the winds and rains of the hurricane, in the free fall of an economic collapse, or in the creative energy of an artist. Rather than focusing on resisting or fighting this primal life force, we are aware of how it can help our world awaken from the nightmare that is destroying all that is sacred and natural. Here in this space of real transformation, life can return its roots to the sacred and be reborn. Later, the forms of the future will come into being, but this is not the present stage of our global crisis. Human consciousness can still be the mediator between the worlds. We can listen to our deeper wisdom that knows these cycles of life and death. Stay true to the love that is like a thread that we can follow. Chaos will test us, whether we cling to our surface possessions or learn to travel light, with a small bundle of love, care, and compassion. Generosity may be more valuable than stockpiling food. Kindness to others more potent than force. These values will determine what we will create and what is born from the ruins. So yeah, quite poignant, really, quite a poignant thing. It's just part of the whole chapter, but this really, when I read this had a fundamental change effect for me. It's like somehow I could just shift and move to opening my arms and my heart to this moment that we're in and embracing this opportunity of change. And I'm sure the three of you can resonate with feeling some kind of pain in our hearts at the world we've been living in that's destroying its own home, our animals, our children, our most vulnerable. You know, it's not okay, and that this is an opportunity for that to collapse and reform and be reborn in a new way. So that just, invites something very different rather than feeling a victim to these times. So any thoughts or anything to say at this point before we move on to some questions? Any thoughts or responses to that?
It's quite an amazing piece of writing, I think. Really powerful. I tend to agree with it.
Is that your experience, Jackie? Is that something that you've sort of experienced yourself? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, you only have to look outside of what's happening in the world to agree with it. But also, I think the deeper inner meanings are quite resonant as well, especially because, you know, I'm a creative, so I do feel like I work with that sort of creative chaos or whatever. But you know, what is chaos, inner chaos? I that's an interesting question. Is it like when our minds can't control everything? Is it kind of, and it's in on that sense, I think it's good to embrace chaos. Definitely, because our minds are trying to control everything and they are so limited.
So limited. Yeah, absolutely. Bella, did you want to say something? Did you start to speak?
Yeah, no, it really, really hit my heart. That it was beautiful. Yeah, really resonated more on on the level of kind of reflecting on my world in here as well as the world there. So it's the balance of the two almost. So there's been times in my life when I've felt that the world was a lot more horrifying than it maybe looked, because actually the world in here was what I was struggling with. And certainly the fighting chaos is no way to be walking these lands. It leaves you almost zombified, and stuck and looking for answers, which of course is an amazing place to begin. But yeah, really, I could really feel the two parallels and how important that is, that it's a whole thing, is the out and the in at the same time. So what's going on in the world with all the destruction and the pain, especially at the moment, but also the same on the inside for us, and how we manage that on a day-to-day basis in order that we can get some nourishment from outside as well as in, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it's really a beautiful reflective piece that's got so many levels, I feel.
Agata, did you want to say anything at this point?
Yeah, I did feel inspired by this piece, and just like Jackie has mentioned, I asked myself, what is chaos really? And it just took me down quite a lot of thinking trails that maybe I won't share everything now, but it made me, reflect on nature that may seem chaotic and is chaotic at times, but is also organizing itself all the time. And I kind of felt that really it's more that we have gone too far into control and too far into kind of stuckness and, predictability, so that we need to separate chaos to create the movement. And then it made me also think of, like, how do we actually relate to chaos in a realistic way from parts of us that need to feel safe. So I have more thoughts on that, but maybe later as we go along.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, really interesting, leading to something there. Okay, great. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Okay, so we'll just start with some questions that I'm going to start with each week, just to start from the microcosm, and we'll lead out to the macrocosm, hopefully. So just starting with ourselves, how are you connecting to and living resilience personally in these times? Who would like to speak first?
I'm happy to go first, seeing as nobody else is.
Yeah, go for it, Jackie. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't want to go first all the time, okay?
Okay.
Well, I'm lucky. I live with my husband and daughter, so I've got company. I've also got a garden, so I'm very lucky having a garden. So I've been, I live on the edge of Dartmoor, so I'm right on the doorstep of a lot of wonderful nature. That's a massive help. I don't know how I'd be if I was stuck in a high-rise flat with two tiny kids with no nature. There's so many people that are in terrible situations. So compared to a lot of people, I feel massively fortunate. I've got a thing that I do. I go down to the river every day. I can't walk very far at the moment because of my arthritis, but it's just a set route that I go, and I talk to the river and honour the river and say my prayers and do my gratitude and all that and give the river an offering. And it's amazing what's been happening from doing that. This has started really since this lockdown began. So that's a big, just anything to do with nature is, win-win. It's always going to be good. And my creativity, I'm writing quite a lot. I've accidentally started writing a novel. Well, I've done the first draft of it. But anything creative I just find is like a lifeline. My daughter, who's 18, is finding it incredibly difficult, this whole thing. At that age, it's a nightmare. But she's a musician, amongst other things, and her music has really helped her. So I feel, very lucky. I'm still working a bit as well. Usually I'm away for late spring till early autumn every year doing festivals, but of course that didn't happen last year, and I doubt if it'll happen this year. So most of my work has gone, but not all of it, and I've transposed some onto Zoom. So yeah, I just feel lucky about that as well, considering.
Sounds like you've been adapting. You've had to adapt, and you are adapting your work by the sound of it as well.
Yeah, as much as I can. Some of it just isn't always the same, but we do what we can, don't we? So yeah, overall I feel, wow, aren't I lucky? But yeah, that's I just feel for those people that don't have all that. Thank you.
And how they find resilience and resource in this time, in those circumstances, which is a really important question, I think. Agata, yep.
So maybe I speak the things that kind of helped me, but that could be also applied by others. And I found that just asking myself, what does my heart want, every day or in every moment? And I feel that kind of smaller joys became more valuable. So I'm not necessarily dreaming, of the trip around the world anymore, but maybe it's making a cake or visiting my favorite tree, and slowing down enough to really receive that. So whatever makes me happy. So if dancing makes me happy, put on the music now, not wait till the end of lockdown. I've been actually taking my little sound device outside and dancing in the woods or dancing on the meadow. So creative projects as well, mixing things up, mixing writing with dancing, with recording. And with the explosion of Zoom offerings, I found that particularly offerings that bring me back into my body and the offerings that bring me close to myself. So I've really sort of recognized the things that involve lots of people and lots of talking heads are quite different than somebody actually, supporting me to enjoy my body or feel my essence. And and also kind of in terms of work in general, just feeling myself, what have I got to offer? So it's on a professional level, but also if it's a helping hand to somebody in the neighborhood, that can be very satisfying.
I'm even feeling a slowing down as you're talking. Sorry, go on, say again.
No, just the cliche, of helping the neighbor.
Yeah, which has become such a lifeline, such a lifeline in these times. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Agata. And Bella, you're in quite a different situation, aren't you? You've got a big family, and I'm guessing you're still working as you're a NHS worker.
Yeah. So I'm still working, and certainly having the family has been a blessing, although it always has been. It's more so of late, but similar to everybody else in that I've found my medicine is kind of a day-to-day thing. So I only do 3 days a week, but I've been really looking after myself, almost intensely looking after myself on my days off, really feeling like I need it, and taking each morning as, what do I actually need this morning? And I always find all the answers in nature. I go and sit with a very wise old oak tree who's been my friend for many years, and I kind of tune into what I'm feeling in that moment, and whatever emotion is there. So if it's the emotion of sadness, I make an offering to sadness and say, thank you for visiting me and being my teacher today, and I'm listening, and I'm here, and we sit and talk. And sometimes I use my imagination and close my eyes and kind of visualize mystical creatures or animals, and I'll come into communion with them and sit with my tree and just have open conversations, and whatever it is I need in that moment, whether I need to get up and dance or move or put some music on and have a real shake of my booty, whatever it is just moment to moment, is just what do I actually need? So what emotions are here? What are you trying to teach me? What do I need to know from this? And what do I need to do? What do I need? What nourishment do I need? So important at the moment.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. There's a common thread for me around slowing down, listening to our really coming in and listening, and also like this very quiet, gentle simplicity, this gentle inquiry, gentle simplicity. I feel, it's what I'm feeling as you've all spoken. Actually, it's a nice theme of that. So thank you, ladies, for answering that question. Yeah, Agata, did you want to add something?
Well, just when I was hearing your summing up, and again thinking of people who might be in different circumstances, especially not close to nature, is just wanted to flag out this thing of really noticing what is a particular thing that soothes you, and kind of monitoring our nervous system. So we develop our kind of, I if I know that I'm agitated, to not to try to fix the agitation on the level of content, but okay, now go to feet on the ground or breathing. So self-soothing. Just wanted to add that. Yeah, thanks.
Really nice adding on. So I just want to quickly check on YouTube as we are live. So there is the open opportunity for people to be joining us live and adding questions. So I just wanted to quickly say we have got 4 people watching us. Hello, the 4 people watching us. There is a live chat box next to the screen. So if anyone would like to offer any comments or questions to the group, please do, and I will attempt to check in and read those. There's nothing there at the moment, but hello to anyone who's watching. Great, so we'll move on to the next question. So what is community resilience and what does it mean to you?
I think what we're doing here.
Right.
We're finding alternative ways we can still come together and still chat and bounce ideas off each other and feelings and thoughts and how we're doing, how we're getting on. So I think still being able to communicate in this way, and being able to be there for each other in understanding, because we're all in this together, is such a valuable thing at the moment. Yeah, it's just that coming together and knowing you're not on your own.
Great. Thank you. Thanks very much for answering that. Thank you. Agata or Jackie, would you like to?
Yeah, well, I can just ditto what Bella said. Again, I think accidentally bumping into people, as you, not literally, physically, don't panic, but when you're out and about, and just I've found that people can be, like when I go to the park, for example, people are more willing to just talk than they would be before all this happened. I've struck up so many conversations with all sorts of people, because I think people just really, really appreciate that contact and connection like never before. Even if it's just talking about the weather, but it isn't usually when I'm concerned. Yeah, just actually finding humour. Like, is it possible? Yeah, and I think humour is, really important to me. And I just think if you can find humour in this situation, it can be really helpful. And just meeting people in a real capacity, wanting to connect. They want to connect. I want to connect. It's been surprising actually how open people are compared to how they are usually. That's what I found anyway. Also, the other day when I went for my river talk and walk, I was really late and it was getting dark, and it's in the middle of the park in Bovey Tracy, and I had to clamber down to across these roots and sort of grab onto this edge and I was right on the edge of the river, and as soon as I got there I just burst into tears. I just, the emotions flowed because I just feel it's such a sanctuary going to the river. Anyway, I was having a little cry, perfectly happy having a little cry, and then this dog came and barked at me, and I turned around and this woman saw me crying. I was like, "Are you all right?" She was really concerned, and I had to kind of say, "Yeah, no, it's fine, really, I am," because I look like a prime suicide, Of course, the suicide rates have gone up massively.
Yes.
Anyway, she went away, but I had to really keep saying, "No, I really am okay." And she kept looking back, she was, and that made me cry even more. The fact that she was concerned, this complete stranger. So I was like that. Anyway, then I was offering my things to the river, and I heard this other woman say, "Excuse me, are you all right?" So she could see me teetering on the edge as well. Anyway, I decided I'm going to get away from the river now and put the good people of Bovey Tracy at relax, paramedics, ambulances. Anyway, so I ended up talking to this second woman, and she was absolutely lovely. We're now friends on Facebook, but she's also training to be a counsellor. So I thought, oh, that's a bit of good homework for you. But anyway, it just really warmed my heart that people were so concerned for another person, and yeah, I couldn't stop crying.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, it's lovely, and I really I think I've very much seen that as well, that it's brought out this part of us that does instinctively care for other human beings, and particularly those more vulnerable. It's just in us, isn't it? And I've definitely seen that come more to the surface in my life and my community as well. So yeah, sweet. Yeah. Agata?
Yeah, I can relate that people I'm passing on my little lanes, that they're not just sort of a cardboard cutout for me anymore. There is a kind of you know, there's a little tender hello, and yeah, and a smile, and you know, and in terms of you know, like community, creating a community resilience in our lives. I think any sense of belonging, you know, supporting a sense of belonging, especially if someone lives on their own, you know, joining like a one group a week or anything like that, is just creates a circle, a concrete circle to go back to and to be heard. And of course, we have a belonging with the whole of life. So talking to any living thing is great, or you know, invisible friends, whatever it takes, really, just to reinforce the sense of being a part of.
Yeah, lovely. I've been listening to Pat McCabe a lot recently. I'm sure at least some of you here know about Pat McCabe. And she always refers, she refers to us as the five-fingered ones. But I love also how she refers to everything around us as our relatives. You know, the animals are our relatives, the trees are our relatives. I just love that. It just really reframes something for me, that actually all of this is our community. And yeah, not just our other five-fingered ones. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. So what does it mean to embrace chaos on an everyday level for you? Big question. Yeah, Agata?
So yeah, so I really love that you brought this subject of chaos, and as I said, I was kind of playing with that and pondering, and thought, you know, of a young part of me that doesn't want chaos, because for her chaos means bombs falling around, you know, or so I feel like, so I was asking myself, okay, what do I need to open to the unknown? Because really, in that passage that you've written, chaos and the unknown are kind of synonymous, some kind of place of dissolution, and
Yeah.
you know, the caterpillar in the cocoon type of stage. And so then I was just wondering, you know, what do I need? How do I open to the unknown? And I feel like actually on some level we need to feel safe enough to explore the unknown, and feel, you know, good in our bodies. So I feel like the first thing is to be resourced, and then obviously the unknown implies that we don't know something. So I like that. I like it. So it involves a spirit of exploration and curiosity. And that's, you know, that's a very sensual experience. It's an experience of really finding out and suspending the point of view. So yeah, it brought me to a sense of sort of child, really, on some level. Child and animal creature. So these are some of the leads I wanted to share with you.
Image that just came to my mind when you were talking of a tree that was really needing to find its roots to be able to kind of withstand the storm somehow. When you were saying about the resourcing, and just for some reason that image really came to my mind of, you know, that's the representation in the tree of like really finding our roots to be able to just withstand whatever comes in the storm. So yeah, thank you. Jackie, yes, please.
Yeah, just going on from what you said about being like a child or an animal, Agata. yeah, which both of those conjure up a sort of freedom of logic. Yeah.
Mm.
And again, a lack of control. And yeah, most people fear that. We fear it in one way or another. And I mean, death, for example, is the ultimate unknown. We don't really know what's going to happen afterwards necessarily, do we? But I feel like if you do kind of surf the edge of the mystery, like you do be like a child or an animal, or you do leave your logical self behind on a regular basis, then I do think you're more resourced. So that can be through play, you know, or any creative thing often results from a kind of swirling, like the pupa in the cocoon, like you said. Just goes into a mush, doesn't it, at one point? It's a mush. The caterpillar goes to mush and then comes out as a butterfly. Yeah, I think death, creativity, and feelings all can propel you into a kind of chaotic, but it's kind of walking with chaos or surfing with chaos or moving with it, you know. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be terrifying, does it? I mean, actually, listening to you talk, Jackie, I feel like, wow, it's quite exciting. Actually, it's like,
yeah,
I don't know, we don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, you know, there's something that's potentially quite exciting about that. You know, we've been living in a very known version of a reality that's actually really unknown, and creating this kind of secure, known version of something which isn't real and is, you know, starting to show its fallibility for sure. And yeah, just as you were talking there, it's like, wow, there's something quite, it's an opportunity and it's exciting. We don't know what's going to happen. The future isn't written yet.
Yeah, it can be exciting. I mean, obviously I'm not keen on the chaos of environmental destruction and torture and war, but I mean, we're talking about another sort of chaos.
And the image that really comes to mind when I think of that thing of chaos into regeneration is the bushfires, the fires that have happened in Australia particularly, and in California last year. They're the ones I was sort of more connected with. And then seeing these images of the regrowth that happened afterwards. So obviously the chaos of people losing their homes, and those firefighters who are risking their lives every day to deal with those fires. I mean, absolute chaos for those people living there. And then afterwards, there's this quiet regeneration of nature, these new springs of life coming through. And it feels like, for me, it feels like that when I read that passage. It's like, okay, we're in this phase of it. We're in the sweeping of the fire phase of it. And somehow it's the natural order that we have to go through that process. You know, we're part of nature, and that's what it does. So yeah, thank you, Bella.
Yeah, it's really interesting to explore your feelings around chaos. I feel kind of you saying about the fear of change, and that we've got almost so used to things being a little bit stagnant and a bit safe, and there's a security in that, but also a sense of is this it? Okay, and you just get on with things. And actually, all the different things in nature that we've been talking about, it all brings balance. So you have to have the chaos and the just that experience of things being stagnant and safe. I did a little meditation the other day when I was feeling really caught up in the chaos, and I could feel that my whole body, my hands felt shaky, and I was short of breath. And I had a moment where I just thought, I can't cope with this. This is too much. I can't handle this. And I just stopped and said to myself, I have a choice. What do I need? And I visualized is it a cyclone that you see with it whirling? And in the very center, in the core, is absolute stillness. And so I was sat in the toilet next to the staff room and visualizing this cyclone And I sat myself in the center and I felt the stillness and the breeze blowing my face and the image of my hair being blown up. And then I just gently leaned into that feeling of chaos and let my hair go, you know, that feeling of, and at first it was the feeling of panic, but then I just let go and thought, this is movement. I'm just moving. I'm just being moved somewhere, and yet here I am. I feel safe and secure, and so it's almost like I carried that sense of stillness from the center because I'd grounded, rooted myself. You know, had a few moments to breathe and think, what was I panicking about? Why was I panicking about being caught up in chaos? And actually it moves things and creates balance. Yeah.
I had the same image of a cyclone, a hurricane, and the eye of the storm, yeah, being the centre. I had the same image. I wrote it down in my notes. That's
Did
funny.
you?
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh,
Me too. At New
Oh,
Year's Eve.
amazing.
Yeah. Mm.
I just want to, that's such a lovely description of how you really dealt with a moment of chaos. And it's just inspired another question, which is, how do we find resource to root us in chaos? Because everyone will do that differently. Just thought it'd be really nice to share how we do that. So you've just given an example, Bella, of how you did that. Just like to ask, you, Agata, and Jackie as well, how do you find it? I mean, I can also speak to that as well. How do you find resource and really roots, thinking about that image of the roots of the tree, if the roots aren't in the ground, it's gone in the storm. But if the roots are strong and solid, how do we find that in our lives?
I believe that we're all at the centre of the universe. So I am at the centre of my universe, you're at the centre of your universe. So if you really do centre, like, the centre of the, you can ground.
Yeah.
You can find that stillness. So you can do it with the breath or with imagery, like Bella, you did with the hurricane. You could move.
How do you do that? How do you do that, Jackie? Give me an example of how you would do that if you can.
So you literally just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like stop your mind going like the crazy chaos, the hurricane, and just come into your body. Come into your body. Come into your breath. It's so simple. It's like the key to the universe.
The breath is the giveaway, isn't it? It's that moment when you just take a split second to, how am I breathing? And you think, whoa, I can really, I'm really short of breath here. And even just in that moment of realizing, sometimes it's just enough to help you think, okay, you just notice, and then you're able to just breathe a bit deeper, maybe open up your shoulders a little bit, or if you're outside, gaze up at the sky. But it's the breathing in itself, for me, I notice, is that my first little sign of, you need to notice. It's like the breath's going, notice me, notice me, notice me. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So similarly, back to the body. I feel like a lot of overwhelm comes from just being flooded with emotion or response to our thoughts. We are so bloody composed, especially in this culture. So I'm like a massive advocate of embodying and exaggerating. If when I was in Poland in the summer, we suddenly found ourselves in a very unsafe situation, where we were potentially going to be held captive somewhere, da-di-da-di-da. And I just could feel my nervous system, responding. And what we did, I was with my partner, so I was lucky that that was a resource in itself. But I just said, look, I can't make any decision. I can't do anything. Let's just create a space to witness the embodiment of what's going on. And he just sat there, and we were lucky to have a meadow. And my body just wanted to run. And I basically ran round in circles for 10 or 15 minutes. And when that was done, so this was basically, it was a nervous system fight or flight response. The moment the running was finished, I was in my heart, I was with my feet on the ground, everything was simple, just from running around in circles for 10 minutes. And so I'm just like, feel upset, have a tantrum, just go, I hate this. Want to hide under a duvet. I just really think embody the state returns to the sense of here I am again. So that's a big resource for me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so what comes to mind for me, I mean, I guess I've taught mindfulness for years, and I've worked a lot with regulation. It's a lot of psychotherapy work is working with regulation as well. So breathing in and out of the soles of the feet is one of my favorite ones. So just imagining, breathing out the soles of my feet into the ground, and then receiving my in-breath from the ground up into my feet, and just doing that for 5 minutes. It's something that I do a lot. It's just like a kind of go-to for me, is to just take my breath there, because I know when I get kind of caught up in something chaotic, I get very rapid. I get very up here and I get very rapid. So that just kind of counters that, taking me down to the lowest point in my body and down to the point of contact with the ground. So it's like whatever I'm doing, that for me has always been an anchor. And something else that just came to mind is one of my teachers at the KRAJEWSKA Institute saying, there is always time to take a breath. And I've tested it many times in literally, in my previous job, I used to deal with really extreme chaos and crisis. That was kind of what I did. And, kids running out in front of cars, really, really kind of like moment to moment, terrifying situations. And I found even in that, there was always time to take a breath. And somehow just one conscious breath, even that can just pull you back into something, can just bring you just a little bit out of that, like you're saying, that kind of edge of the hurricane, and just a little bit more into the center. And sometimes it might only be you have time to take a breath, but you always have time to take a breath. And I have really put that to the test, and I found it very useful. So I think, there's a theme, I think, in what we're saying about breathing definitely is a central thing. And again, feeling our bodies in some way, whether that's following the motion to run and move, or to just kind of root in some way. So Jackie, I feel like you were about to say something. Was there?
I wasn't.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I just feel like I want to quickly check on the YouTube and just double check if anyone has said anything. No, they haven't. That's fine. Okay, it's my first time doing it on YouTube, so I'm just trying to work out how it works, but that's fine. Okay, should we move on to the next question? Yeah. Okay. What do you see as the positive opportunities that are open to us in this time? Jackie?
Well, it depends who the we is that we're asking about. I think a lot more people have become more aware of the healing power of nature since the first lockdown. More how important it is for your mental and physical and emotional health. So maybe, actually, I've already forgotten the question, but
Shall I revisit it? So what do you see as the positive opportunities open to us at this time?
So maybe, I think there is more of an upsurge of people switching on to the need to preserve what little wild life we have left. And just a reboot, possibly. I mean, it scares me that the megalomaniacs are in charge and they have got all the power and the money, or most of it, and they're not going to give that up easily. Let's just be quite frank about that. But I think small acts of growing carrots and sharing with your neighbour and talking like this and loving and having fun. Oh, fun! I see having fun and enjoying yourself as a tremendous act of defiance.
Nice, yeah. And a resource, like we were saying in that last question. Humor, I think, is a really, really vital resource. Yeah. Anyone else? Agata?
Yes, completely. And you know, just to add to the resources, really also bringing attention to what is working and what does feel good. But yeah, in terms of what were we talking about? What we're getting from
the question's not staying, is it, for some reason? some land and some just disappear out of the space somewhere, so it's doing that a little bit. But the question was, what do you see as the positive opportunities open to us at this time?
I feel like, you know, just to sort of risk a generalization, I feel like we've all had rug pulled from under our feet, from our, you know, trajectory, whatever it was, the trajectory of I'm doing this or I'm doing that, is suddenly, whoa, am I really doing that? So yeah, that's a time to pause, a forced pause perhaps, that can become an intentional pause, and like a reevaluation, and coming back to self, getting to know self, getting to, you know, see what actually matters. And I think also it can be a time to establish some practices, like the river visits, for example. You know, I'm actually amazed that I'm doing an online yoga practice, which is really not something I would think I was capable of. But there is time for that, and I love it. So yeah, time to kind of gather our nuts, you know, for whatever is ahead.
And I really like that what was this you said, reevaluating. Yeah, chance to reevaluate and really look at what's essential, what's important, you know. And I mean, particularly with like all the shops closing and going back to what's essential, I think it's the first time in my lifetime that I've really been aware of what is essential, you know, what really is essential. And all the other things you said as well, but that just really stood out to me as an opportunity that's been made available to us through this. And Jackie, do you want to say something? Go on.
Say something else. Yeah, it's interesting when you just said about being essential, because I lived in a teepee for years, and you don't have any storage space. You've just got the teepee. That's it, and you certainly find out what's essential then. It's basically food, warmth, shelter, and water. Full stop. Everything else is added. We really don't need anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get that. Thank you. Bella?
Yeah, just really reiterating what everyone else was saying. Certainly the hope that this whole thing will help people to tune into what's important, and being without, when you kind of lose all your ways of distracting yourself from yourself, if that makes any sense. Actually not being able to distract yourself, then beginning to notice, I think, is so not just externally, but quite often we don't make those changes or those decisions until we haven't got something. And then, so certainly when this first hit, I noticed with a lot of my patients and clients that there was the anger, that they couldn't do the normal things. And then there was the acceptance. And now it feels a little bit like there's the discovering new ways, and it feels quite sparky and excited. Oh, I feel quite sparky and excited about, they've gone through that bit, and they've gone without and gone through the anger and frustration, and that, now we all know what comes next. So it's kind of hopeful that people will just come to know themselves in, a more holistic way, a more loving and compassionate way, and then share that with the world.
What a lovely invitation. What a lovely invitation. Yeah, what a lovely invitation. So I was just thinking as you were talking then, I don't know how you're experiencing it, but for me, I've got a real sort of, I'm really noticing polarities in so many different ways. And one of the polarities is I am seeing some people who are really embracing this time, like, great, this is an opportunity to stop what I was doing and change my life and learn some new skills and, anything, all variations of that. But people that are really embracing this current time, and other people that are terrified by it, really, really struggling with it. I have some people that I know that are really struggling, feel very broken and don't know how to adapt or adjust, or just don't have any inspiration on how to do that. How could we possibly speak to those people, the people that are really struggling to deal with this time, to kind of, I don't know if there's anything we could speak to that could inspire a different way to look at this time, no matter what the situation? Big question, but just something that came up.
I suppose it depends on somebody. Oh, sorry, were you talking?
Go on, Jackie.
It depends on somebody's situation. If they are, absolutely rock bottom, if their situation is bad and they don't have money and they're, all sorts of things, they've lost their job and anything could happen, then, gosh, it just depends, doesn't it? Because they have fewer choices. So
absolutely, yeah, there is fewer choices, and some people, like you've touched on at the beginning, some people are in high-rise flats with 2-3 children, with no space, no outside access. What opportunities do they have compared to us? I mean, I guess something that just came to mind for me then was just support, just the word support. What support is there, and trying to be as creative as possible with what support, even if it's just, a neighbour a couple of doors down you can go and have a cup of tea with once every couple of days, just even if it's a little tiny thing. Any movement towards accessing support, I think, would be possibly helpful. Agata?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel like, for people who are desperate because of envisioning the consequences of what's going on, it's just like resourcing, and as much as possible, stop the thinking. I feel like, thinking in great perspective can be interesting, but just starting close in is just like, it's me here. What do I need? Just now, call this friend, have this cup of tea, do this one thing that you love. Anything about staying here, anything about conducting the energy of the stress, because it's, from my perspective, is the overload of the nervous system that creates the unhappiness. And once the nervous system is happy, the world changes. So yeah, it's a two-way thing.
And there are always the options to
Yeah.
sorry, I'll come in. So there's always the options to call people, even if there's something that came up in our group last week called Quarantine Chat. I don't know if any of you saw the call last week, but yeah, so the Quarantine Chat, I think it's quarantinechat.com is the website, and you can sign up, and it's all your details are secured, and you can sign up, just put your details in. There's a process to put your details in your interests. And every day you get a random call from someone else somewhere in the world who's also in lockdown. And Nick, who was on the call last week, mentioned it, and Amy, who was another person on the call, she was like, amazing. So she signed up to it immediately. And the first day she got a call from a guy in India and had a really interesting chat with him. And I mean, I think that's great that they're doing. It's a completely free service. So that's something that people can access. You know, there's people like Samaritan. So I happen to know Samaritan's number is 116123. They are always available 24/7. So there are these 24-hour support services. So let's make use of them.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, and you know, I have spoke to people like that for different reasons at times, and they are always happy that they're there because they want to be there. So they're always happy to talk to you. And I know that a lot of different local therapy centres are doing different things. So, for example, where I live and where I work, the Devon Clinic is offering a national lottery funded free counselling service for people that are struggling with their mental health during lockdown. So anyone that's in Torbay, they can access that, and then you can get up to 6 1-hour sessions for free, and there's no requirement. So there are things like that.
That's
you know, there are these sort of community responses, and I know that the National Lottery particularly has funded a huge amount of projects in the last 6 months that are all doing COVID support response. So it might be good to like look in your local area and see what's happening. You know, Google it, support in your town or whatever, and see what comes up, because there's a lot of that happening, definitely. Agata, you were going to say something.
No, I was just thinking about this sort of contain spaces to really kind of empty out, because it's almost like either we sort of moan all the time, or we try to be positive before we properly moaned. And you know, just having a 10 minutes of, you can put a timer on with a friend on the phone and go, for 10 minutes I'm just gonna not try to be anything, I'm just going to empty out. And yeah, it's you know.
Yeah, I like that. I like the emptying out words as opposed to something else, just kind of emptying out whatever's there and allowing a space for it. Yeah, lovely, thank you. Jackie?
I find writing is a really good resource for help. Just writing either your thoughts or just your unthoughts. And of course, I do lots of writing anyway, but just keeping a journal and then looking back over it, you can see patterns, you can get an objective view of how you've been, and therefore how you might be now, and then how you might be in the future. I think writing is wonderful, and it's pretty much free. Doesn't cost much.
Yeah, and if you're not someone who is a natural writer, there's always voice recordings, vlogging to yourself, doing little videos to yourself. You know, thankfully we've got all these creative technologies now that can find different ways to just let something out. That's what I feel the both of you are saying. It's like finding a way to just empty or to let something out and let something be expressed around the challenges. Yeah, great. So something that keeps kind of coming back to my mind as we're talking, because I know in the original conversation when we were talking about the topic for this chat, one of the suggestions that came up was creativity. And as the only person who knows all three of you in some way, Jackie, we don't know each other that well personally, but creativity feels important. Yeah, it feels like a real theme in your work. Agata, I've experienced your work, and creativity is a huge part of that. So I just wonder, you know, if we're looking at the idea of how we're in this phase of chaos, and kind of moving between what we had to what can be born next. And within that process is creativity. What does that look like for you, that energy? You know, what is it, that sort of that energy that takes you from something you were into something that can be? I just wonder what that looks like. And I'm wondering if you could, you know, what comes to mind for me is I'm sure we can all remember a moment where we've had to go through chaos to get from one stage of our life to another. And it maybe wasn't the road we would have chosen. We would have liked it to be nice and peaceful and sweet and calm, but it wasn't. And can we look back and go, yeah, but that was right. It was right. It had to be like that. It had to go through this stage of chaos. So how does creativity play into this? Let's go with that question. How does creativity play into this moment of chaos to serve what can be born from it?
I think when you're tapping into your creativity, you are tapping into the creative force of the universe. It's not just you personally.
Yeah.
But you're feeling, I don't know, I feel very supported by the life force, by whatever some people might call God or goddess or whatever. So I think it just really connects me. Don't know if that answered the question. Can't even remember the question now.
No, it was a bit of a long, it was a little bit long-winded, but I guess just, yeah, how does creativity play into this moment? If we just strip it back to that, you know, how does creativity come alive in this moment of chaos?
It makes me feel more empowered because I'm responding to what is going on in me and out there. And it makes me feel like I can express something I need to express. That's how I feel when I create.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks.
I play a little bit with if I have a particular emotion. I think I mentioned this earlier. I'm creative in a way of somehow by imagining that emotion as a person or a thing or an animal, I can then somehow communicate with that, and quite often I'll write poetry from this emotion, or I'll scribble a manic drawing with crayons and paints, and it feels like I'm expressing the deeper parts of me that can't be expressed just by talking with somebody or saying, oh, I feel a bit sad. I think it's that connecting the whole mind, body, spirit, you know, that I, by the feelings, by being able to feel and then speak and then put it on paper, it's like you drop through different levels almost for me, just deeper and deeper into spirit. I feel it's my spirit, and purer, just simplicity that's there. But I really enjoy playing with my emotions in that way. I feel like I'm honouring them by letting them express themselves, but somehow I'm not so encompassed with this sadness that I feel that that's all that I am. Then it just becomes a part of me, a beautiful part of, you know, multiple parts of the universe and multiple parts of myself, and then it changes the way I feel about particular, you know, dark emotions. I enjoy playing with them in that way.
Yeah, thank you. It reminds me, just hearing you say that reminds me of what Agata said at the beginning about that brought back to something quite childlike, quite young and innocent, and just responding to the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Agata, did you want to add any more, or are you say anything to that?
I would love to. Yeah, I find a massive resource in the act of witnessing, being witnessed. So I, over time, especially if I'm beginning to go particularly mad, I make sure I arrange with a friend just to have a time when they bear witness to me, but not just talking, but in the space. So it's a space to be. And I was even doing it in the first, like when things were really tough, I would meet like on the field, you know, with a friend, and we just witness each other on the field for a short amount of time, maybe 5 minutes at the time. And in that, allowing different parts to speak and become. And I was then feeling like I kind of been up to date with myself. It's almost like I've, similar to what's been spoken, received myself. But also I feel like, you know, this thing of being creative can also become a bit of a pressure at times. And there's just that, like, being alive requires being creative every day. And I think just following your fancy is very, very empowering, you know, within limits, but basically within limits that we have. So we have those limits that maybe we haven't chosen. But I think it's very creative to just say, what do I want right now? What do I long for? What do I fancy? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I just noticed someone made a comment on the YouTube page, so I'm just going to check that. So it's Tamsin. Hello, Tamsin. She said, lovely, this really poignant discussion and inquiry. Thank you for your words, wisdom and open hearts. Thank you, Tamsin. Yeah, so just a couple more questions. We're nearing the end of our lovely, inspiring discussion. One is around, work. I'm just curious in the different things that you're doing at the moment. If there's anything that's particularly coming out of your work that you're seeing is really useful for people at this time. Is there anything? Jackie?
I just feel like everything I do has suddenly become really important now. And before it was kind of important, but now it's really important. For example, you know, I do tarot readings. They're online now, but they can really help people, remind them of their gifts and how they can use their energy and what choices they have and what are the best ways of using their sense of choice. So that's one thing. I'm still managing to do some mentoring, just one-to-one, you know, outside or whatever, even though, well, not since this lockdown has started, but before this lockdown. And just the creative writing classes that I'm doing. I'm working with a group of women in recovery from domestic and sexual abuse and addiction, and that is obviously that's online, but that's been so valuable, and I learned from them as much as they from me. Very simple, just creative writing with kind of mindfulness and relaxation stuff. I just think all these things and the classes I do with the goddesses, they can just help build resilience basically and bring you to yourself, and in a way that's nurturing. Anyway, that's what I've found so far.
So there's the thing that jumps out for me from what you said is an awareness of what's really important becoming more important somehow. You know, it's like really a real kind of a heightening of what's really important, and something around that sort of stood out for me in what you said. Agata?
Yeah, I can relate to that last statement, and I almost feel like people in the groups I've been leading are just not, excuse my language, are not fucking around so much. It's just like, now is the time. It's like whatever I've been waiting for, whatever I've been hiding, there's somehow less to lose. So yeah, I've been lucky that I've been given some of that lottery funding to support people through the pandemic, and it's been an absolute privilege, both online and in person. Yeah, I mean, it supported me so much to actually have a function. And one of the themes we've been exploring is working with archetypes, and that's been great. So in terms of like a wider use, and I know that's Jackie's area of play as well. So you know, that's been very empowering, because that's another inner resource, or it's another resource that we can reach, you know, regardless of circumstances. So people have been discovering these amazing powers inside them through focusing very clearly, you know, on the warrioress, or the mother, or the heroine, or the crone, or the maiden, and being almost like tutored from within by these energies.
Wow. Yeah, so there's less security and somehow more opportunity then in that, you know, something, I don't know. Yeah, that's the feeling I had as you said that, you know, that there's nothing to lose, you know, just like, well, here we are. So yeah, amazing. That's really interesting. It's given me a real feeling in my body of like, let's do it kind of feeling. Yeah, great. Bella?
Certainly for me, actually in my work, thankfully I only work part-time nursing. It's been so busy that I've not been doing groups and that sort of thing. But on the shamanic side of things, I've been just one-to-one tutoring, which has been absolutely beautiful and so nourishing for me. And there seems to be, and I'm hopeful, a little rise in the amount of people that are reaching out and trying different things in different ways, and it feels really poignant that we're a part of that. Feels really important, and exciting. Just making the difference with just that one person, has been a real joy for me this year.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just running about in your NHS work actually, because I mean, you know, can only imagine what it's like to actually work on the front line at the moment, and you know, even within that work, have you found you've had to kind of adapt your way of working with people in some way to kind of work more with regulation, or you know, to kind of work more with the emotions people are experiencing? Have you noticed anything in that way?
Oh yeah, completely. I've certainly noticed. I mean, the whole world just flipped upside down, and all the structures that were in place, fell apart, and I could see that in the people, the fear and how scared they were, and so it felt really important to be able to spend time as much as I could with each person, you know, sort of within the limits, but it was there's elements of it that I'm hoping will stay. It feels things are almost a little bit more spaced out than they used to be for the patients because of what's going on, and the frameworks that have fallen away, new things have been put into place, and people are already going, that's an interesting way of doing it. Maybe we should do it that way. And so that feels, positive as well. So it's changes all round.
Thank you for being one of our frontline workers. And I'm really in admiration of our frontline workers. I hear stories occasionally, and I just think, wow, my life is slow and blessed and paced, and I can't imagine how it is to be doing that. So big love to all of our frontline workers.
Thank you.
So we'll finish with one question to finish us off, which is, what are you seeing as the real challenges that we're facing at this time? And what do you feel drawn to prioritize as a response?
Well, to me, the biggest challenge is the environmental crisis.
Mm-hmm.
But how can it be separated from the megalomaniac dictators and people in power that are choosing how things happen? I mean, if you want a challenge, how big can it get? It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole structure that's been going on for thousands of years, they're not going to, like I said earlier, they're not going to give up the power easily.
So what do you feel to prioritize as a response in experiencing that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm quite vocal in my poetry and my everyday life on social media about social justice. You know, signing petitions and stuff. But I mean, it's only what can we do? There are various things we can do, but I think on a small level as well, like we mentioned, even if it's just one person that you're working with and they, you know, you're helping nurture and helping transform or support them in their transformation or growth, or, you know, that's because individuals make up the whole. So it's all levels, you know, from the tiny to the massive. And finding where I'm part of the problem, and, you know, how I can change where I buy things from, what I buy, you know, which foods I get from what companies, all that sort of thing. And just trying to support where I can, but also really being careful that I don't burn out, because I feel like we're in such a terrible state that it's very easy to be overwhelmed with despair and so it's important to just take care of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if anyone saw Greta Thunberg's documentary that came out recently. It was on BBC and a few other places, but what you just said there reminded me of that, because she really wanted to walk her talk to the point where she was invited to a conference in America, and you know, she'd stopped having dairy, stopped having meat, and was refusing to go on any planes, and she went on a boat from Plymouth to New York to really walk her talk of not going on planes, and this documentary followed her experience. I mean, it haunted me, actually. It was actually really harrowing. And I'm so in admiration of that young girl to do everything she's done, but wow, to really look in our own lives at what we're actually, you know, how we're contributing to the problem, and what even little steps we can take. I mean, that's a massive thing that she did, but even what little steps we can take to be part of the solution rather than continuing to be part of the problem. Yeah, great, thank you. Agata?
Yeah, hi. So for me, the biggest challenge at the moment is isolation and separation that I see happening between people, and that's connected to mental health, and that's connected to social structures and community support, and so what I prioritize in that is supporting a different kind of identity, you know, not the identity of the separate me that just has to survive or that is all alone, but just cultivating connectedness on every level and remembering the sense of belonging on every level. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bella?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm with, that sense of embracing yourself in your perfect imperfectness, and knowing that you are needed in this world, and that you are needed here to do something and to help and support and guide, and that your very precious individual light is needed, and that you are important. But that all begins, despite what they tell you, it begins with loving yourself. And it's okay to love yourself and to say nice things to yourself, because that's where you begin to overspill, and then we change the world. That's the kind of love yourself, because you deserve it.
Yeah, it makes me think of, how we are collectively treating the earth, which is not with reverence and respect and gratitude, and somehow offering that to ourselves as the microcosm of that can ripple out to actually do that to our great mother, the earth, as well. So thank you. Wow, amazing, wise, beautiful women. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and for sharing your thoughts and feelings and wisdom. So I just, for anyone watching, I have put links on the description for this video for everyone who's on the call. If you'd like to find out a bit more information about what anyone here is offering and doing at the moment, then yeah, please do have a look there, and you can see links. And I also put a link to the full article that I read excerpts from at the beginning of the talk, if you'd like to read that and see that as well. So thank you very much, ladies, and well done for all the wonderful work that you're doing in the world. Thank you very much. And thanks for being a part of this space. I feel very heart enriched by the experience, and belly enriched, actually. My belly's feeling enriched too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Us together. Yeah.